standing on the precipice of life and death, on the brink of being caught and killed, or worse, tortured. It didn't used to be like this, at least not before the setting kicked in. No one without governmental status knows the origins of the collapse. They were kept secret from the public. I was standing on a hilltop covered in snow, and it continued to fall from the sky hastily. I peered over the cliffside, seeing nothing but white emptiness below. I knew there was a town under the clouds. The hovering stillness of the fog felt like a specter ready to rip me from my stance into the blurring, chalky oblivion. Why does it all feel like this? Lately, anxiety far too prevalent on the earth. I was hopeful to find even the smallest amount of supplies. I'm always hopeful. Agony's always arm's reach away, waiting for lapse. But I've come to terms with the stakes. But nevertheless, I was being chased by a deadly force, creeping closer minute by minute. I could hear the hundreds of them trudging up the hillside. I was running out of time, staring in the mist. I knew my parachute wouldn't stop my imminent death, but it would postpone it. And that's all I needed it to do. That's all anything does. My friends, they have wanted me to prosper. It was now or never. I backed up and counted 10 feet, taking one last look at this gorgeous scene. Emptiness all around. Nothing seemed wrong here except the fact that life-absorbing, bloodthirsty soldiers chasing me. And with that thought, I began running, hurling my body into the ice-cold mist. My descent in the pale clouds of perspiration. For a few moments, here and now, time stands still. For whatever reason, taking these breaths. Why? Leaping, my body hurled into ice-cold precipitation. It didn't feel like I was even moving. It felt like a good time to open my eyes. Chapter 2. Dissonance. Motionless in the fog, as it were, I had become inertia, but then I felt the wind brush at my cheek, and it took me out of the thought that it would never be as clear as it is right now, when I can't see anything, just to wait in stillness, as you're falling with the snow. So I'll pull the chain for the parachute, as the clouds and turns of shadows climb my descent, my deliverance from white hills of snowflake, and the casting of those delicate to a mission to seek the ground is from a decree from heaven. From heaven you will go to find the dirt and reach the foundation's rock. As I had ended my falling to towns below, only to see the cross on a church in yonder distance, so I fixed my gaze on those things of good report, and my feet from toe to heel received place for rest, but was not at ease. Now I run to the cross for my enemies, passing buildings as resilient to stand. Buildings over time became just a room and things in it. These walls are all straight and dull-colored, no craftsmanship to the integrity of the businessman. Building after building, I recall that all the money in our world bottlenecked, so everything standing was from the same people who were the same reason the mass was awestruck and vanished, and things began to happen where the middle class could afford enough to be settled, and the homelessness began to skyrocket, and the level of education had been poisoned too early to even know. That's why I'm still at peace, knowing I haven't seen a soul in this town. It was a rarity that another human would see another with the wantingness to be found, passing many structure or pointlessness. So the shade as it climbed in my stillness now has also fallen on the town. I must needs escape of it, or it might be the tomb that got me. Let it never be so. My journey out of the town was light. When I had touched ground, it was on a firm foundation on the outer side of this would-be grave. For me, as much people have come to find out these People one day affirmed a better life and better conditions for anyone willing to come start new lives in a new popular societal experiment. They are forming multiple worldwide majority of large cities when completely evacuated because it was the expected move of everyone locally to relocate. Some people would not go. That's when we begin to see a society where many people have left to join a new group, moving, leaving some people off. But the same who offered better lives came and they began forcing people to leave. And when the first American shot these people, forcing him to evacuate, he was shot dead. And people knew the context. And people knew what those people did to him. Yet they go to the next house as to double up. So the witness spreads. As soon as the snow had fallen from clouds in heaven, so did the ashes fly from the buildings of the corruption that infested our communities with lies of liberty. But there was no spirit of the Lord there. Day by day I was born in my first of days, but it was all perfect to make and be who we would all become. So I would grow and be. Where's the point? I can't see it. I'm not sure, but slowly I grow into more of my ability and become who I am and be me and really try with the list of chances shrinking, as were others, and others did have the chances. Some I don't know if they had chances or if it all been planned. So I was a baby and I grew up. Yeah, we all had chances at some point, but the last of these days are somber and darker than the last were, and got progressively worse. As the Bible says that man is formed with the dirt, it was most apparent when I had seen so many lay there on the earth, and not them screaming that it was wrong, but the absence of their presence was what screamed how wrong it felt to me. Every next person after person, the scream beckons to me, seemingly trying to warn me or teach me, but really a disease that's external. But the effect was greatly imparted on my actions, whether I truly wanted to live as bad as I ran or I didn't want to die before it became more clear. Before I could ever feel okay with where it was and how it went, so I ran out of the city, passing the foothill with the church, but with haste into a forest, to depart where I'd been, and to break sight of those who hunger for my life, but also gnaw at my thoughts. To be me as I am couldn't exist without those that seek my life, because now I see the treasure I am. I am so. My vision was fixed, and as I hear an explosion, I escape. I could finally hear again. They razed the town. It wouldn't have mattered to me prior to all this, but as I had been lengthy on my journey, adding another list of towns disintegrated added a toll. Reflections of fire casting darkness on trees stamped in my brain. The fruit of these things must first be seen. Even though I pray, I be lifted on angel wings who escaped this dream. I hear the voice, there is still much fruit to glean. So I bear the burden for the King of Kings and the lost sheep, lost in the fog of thieves and of reapers, those quick to grin and squeeze you. Many and many had I seen fallen to the knees, left bleeding, because the dream they had been given was only but a dream, and greater things had set in place as we all slept. So then some woke and some wept. Arguments became to us as food, and our bread was discourse, with aimlessness to drink down, so I did eat thereof. What? As if to contest my own thoughts, what could you possibly say to this generation? Am I the anomaly? Or if this situation made us all oddities? To those who lived in peace, I remember sleeping as a child at my grandma's in the night. The door was unlocked and there was no thought of robbers. There was pure solace. But lately I walked in darkness as light. with many a locks on my mind, and a conviction from Christ I am still alive for just the right place and time, with an alignment of people, in a room, or just the right song, that I imagine would make the moment a dancing with her in red stainless, but scarlet, all the more blessing, with the grip of reality on my neck. And I woke up yelling, "Help, please," as my mind's desire for dancing with galleons fizzled away, with the sky crying on fire, but the fire just reminded me of her dress. Another place left faster than I could enjoy it. Before it all, I would do drugs and while I ponder, I'm reaching for joy and dosage because I can't find it in the environment. So I run through these days, seeming to be one day of fear, and I now wonder that drugs are gone, if there was ever any joy to be taken from the places I found myself in. To say I owe this location nothing and it owes me nothing, so then why can't I move on? So as I would get high jumping, you always land on the ground you jump from. Long ago we stopped jumping forward for progression and started jumping up to be seen and see things. So was my daily life to be a spectacle and to see things I hadn't before, and to come to this thought, I will keep walking until I'm home. I once heard, keep moving forward even if it means you walk a path of carnage, living drenched in foolishness. The drenching of blood is what cleansed me, yet everyone still saw a fool's fool. The carnage I have walked comforted this poor fool, and the knowledge of Jesus comforted this withered man who was left to jesting for pennies of affection. Chapter 3. A Meeting by Chance. Yeah, so why even look at me like that? Sit on the side like this and be seen like that. Yeah, it hurts. I remember telling them, anyone who just didn't get it, man, you can hate me just to hate me, or you can help me get through this. But quickly the passerbys wanted to just hate rather than to help me change. I was asking for a change out on storefronts when I was too young to even know what I was doing. The money was long, the food was long, but I was hungry. Only a couple people would talk down on me to tell me I'm nothing, but I was beyond criticism. Lost in a fabricated outlook of this world. Unconscious, I was outside my body and in my mind playing a video game. So stakes were digital in no way. Was reality any different? Because as a video game, people only wanted numbers and rare items. Was it that everyone else couldn't see that the games they played had been no different than mine, other than they thought what I was playing was the only game, when they couldn't step out of the game they played and couldn't even see it, or could they? Like I died and born again, reality as it had formed into what it had become, and now it wasn't a game or even similar at all. Some people who flipped a script and had never played a video game became the ones foaming out the mouth to empty another person of blood for the position they would be given, for showing no mercy to those who refused to conform with the faceless image or corporation that drove humans like vehicles to take the lives that should be brothers and sisters in humanity. But as a video game, the concept of taking another for the loot they hold, it became a real thing. So the terror on terror was untold. As a scroll rolled and torn, no one would reminisce about these times. As my mind reconfigures, I was stuck in the willows. I slept in a tree off the ground. I had seen it in a movie before, but this time I was alone. Even in a movie about being the last one standing, I had these kids beat, literally, as the movie was just a memory to be forgotten, to have his place taken by a real-life event, almost trying to copy the previous memory or solidify its trueness in my own mind like a foreshadow. So I climbed down from the tree Look around, it's still dark out. I only got about 2 hours of sleep, but I gotta get going. They send the recon scouts in the morning before people could even finish mourning. When the sun starts turning, a red dress is burned in my imagery. For a minute, I fall into fantasy. Where did you go, the person I'm seeking for? Oh, where did you go? Looking through the snow, I'll walk out of this forest alone. I don't even need to look back. I feel that you weren't even ever here, so I'll keep looking. Forward like I got something to look forward to. Will I ever see you? I hope you feel the way I do. Now I have been walking for 5 whole minutes. It's so nice to see all these trees blocking line of sight, so for once I can feel safe. Blue in the sky, like the clouds aren't even awake. At this pace, I'ma make it somewhere, but maybe not today and maybe not here. But it's okay to feel okay. When the feeling drains and face feels strained from the winter wind, and it's not even winter yet. Wow, so many crying in a sleeve so their face don't freeze, begging for the warmth of a household. I don't know when the house is coming home. The book says yes and thoughts say no. So inside my turbulence is shaking anything that will be shaken. I'm raking up everything I can take with me on this trip. I don't know if it will ever get better than this, but I'm still hopeful, kid. Long-lasting feelings of I gotta do this shit. I'm tired of walking alone at that very moment. I could see a barn and a path leading up to a pasture where it's likely no animals had been for a minute, so I'll go walking through it. Halfway through the pasture, I made my way in the open air. No reason to be scared, but I had the barrel hanging and I'm holding on, looking back and forth. Oh, my past won't let me look backward, 'cause it's still right here with me. But I'll keep walking even though I don't know the next step to feeling better. I've wandered in weather worse than this. It's just a fiction of an event that I would ever come to feel like this. Victors sing victory over the 99%, but I was blessed just to win a couple, yeah. But the symptom of victory was sour sweet. To win all the things and to be the last one standing. It just so happens to be that when you're a victim of victory, you often do a lot of standing alone. You see, where bitterness, shared bitterness with bitter to receive sympathy. If I try to share my victory, suddenly I become the battlefield in which the scars are formed, and bitter ones strive to triumph over me, to escape those who made it better to be in the game. So I finally get to join again. But where are all the people I'd walk with if you didn't win? Long gone was victory and triumph when I was running just to exist. If anyone could hear my thoughts, it sounds like an autobiography drawn out and extra, but no one would read it. He told me they will hate you because they hated me, but who the sun sets free is free indeed. King of kings, save me, his name is the Lord. There is not one beside him who has power. Snow starts falling like a shower, just one more snow. Light lasts and the tops of the flowers will be covered. So even if the victor go the spoils, with the snow his face will be long gone, his spoils froze. From a strong wind I'm blown down like a glimpse into a different vision. I saw the red dress again, but I can't tell if I was tripping. I pick myself up again, it's nothing new to fall down in the snow another time. Something holds me down, break off with haste. I get angry. Another thing tries to take me impatiently. I break for the barn, pulling out the strap on the barrel. One gun and some apparel, random backpack. I got my routine on sterile. If I have to pull the hammer,
Which way will the bullet go? Because my life is just as valuable as yours. And word to God, because he's the only one besides me who will think so. And that's all I've ever known is a room of cutthroats saying go and get your own while they're reaching for my throat. I bust through the barn door, double-barreled, hoping I don't hurt anyone scared. I went from a scene on white as snow and heard someone yell, pull the lever, and from white to black, back to white, I had been pacified. Waking, I was tied up listening to three people decide what to do with me.
Chapter 4. Vanish. An empty scene in a concrete sidewalk, and it just kept going. I was walking it for too long. I knew I was missing someone, but it was just a sidewalk to walk, so who was I missing? Come to the river, rang out, but nothing was in sight, so I kept going. Eventually there was a river, and it was a opening from a forest with a tan dress and a single blue feather headband sticking it straight up, bent at the knees to taste of the water, and we made eye contact with braided black hair to contrast the yellow and red flowers in the blue of the water, and I walked closer. Without saying anything, I walk up to the center and she's on my right, and I kneel down to take of the water and as much as cuppable in my hand. Before drinking, I look over and we make eye contact again, and she smiles. I fall into the river face first. I've emerged from this would-be paradise, having looked for someone and haven't found one, but then walking into a burning hot ice cold bucket of water thrown in my face in a barn covered in snow, hearing three people arguing, some ruffling off further. Why don't we just murk him? Why even take a hostage? He's just a kid. What can we even do with him? In a jumpy voice that one said, and what he said, and a voice replied to him, he came from the direction we're headed now. If you stop running around headless, you would understand that we need some information before we go thoughtless in the fog, and a Reaper squad find us and we get chopped off. I wonder if you even think it all, but now a girl, and she says, look, whatever you do, do it quick. We need to make a decision and get moving. Why did you need to throw a bucket of water in his face? Now he's drowning in his place. Take the blindfold off of him and get this over with. Noises of more fumbling in the background. So a scratchy gloved hand, half tattered, reaches for the now become bandage on my face since they split my brow. Scratchy gloved hand snatches the rag from off my face, half beat in my eyes. Took time just to take in a few rays of sunbeam. They put me in the chair in the only part of the barn where the roof broke through, and it shines on me. It would feel amazing if I wasn't in a strange stasis where some strangers are trying to make a next chapter in their arrangements, but the book I read laid it out like this. He told me they would play like this. It wasn't unexpected, so if this was my last moments, I beg in a prayer, Christ Jesus, have mercy on me, a sinner. Now the cold winter wind yet again hits the cheek, but this time with the cut on the brow, the sting of the cold worst wonders. Hurt, I was torn asunder once. A tough time had nothing but an annoyance, and now a tough time is a life spent, memories spent, intentions met, where the invisible barriers of I can't live without them. Yeah, because without them, who am I? I spent all this time to be who I am, built what I am, and then there's the people who built me by being in the story. Yeah, and it too.
To say if I went, I wouldn't be much worse. But to know if one wanders across me to see a corpse they had known from a past lifetime long ago, then what wasn't much for me was too much for them. If I had envisioned me dead and it didn't hold weight, but to them it made a change, as to say, if they are gone, then soon it will be me. So with a wind shift, things change these things, and I wrote it on my sleeve. I'm going to live, and when death comes and gets me, then he did his diligence. But until then, the figments of depression get extinguished, because now it is shaking. And these 3 powder puff bullet punks have me tied up, and now we feel the real trouble coming. When you hear the steel mammoth and a stick shaking, faceless savages ready to erase you, not even like it was back then. If it was me or you to the mammoth, food was the common factor that my village needs to eat. So when the tusked fur horn comes, my village will eat, as was all things. Now they come past with no story, just an army. All those people once was and now aren't, so were they ever at all? It's hard to say how a story's written, chapter after chapter, fractions added to fractions to give ample room. This life feels true, but many change to faceless, and story loaded with filler, thrown in with leaving, and it shakes all the harder as they panic with words rambled, not worthy to be recited in all. Close my eyes as the panic ramps up, and words turn to tactics, and my frame centers and slows. What was the dramatic piano music on top of a clash of actors, on top of a dramatic action play we all happen to be in? The truth to this fiction, tied up to a chair in a barn, defenseless in the cold, unshaken, because if this was where it ends, then this is where it ends. So the 2 guys argue and the woman fumbles the pack. I see out a barn crack the reason of the rumbling. Yeah, it's a heart rate increaser. Into your hands I commend my spirit, Jesus. As it slows down and slows down, I realized I was only roped down to some flimsy, tickle me pink excuse of a chair trying to go against me. So as they fumble and wrestle harder, as the trouble bubbles closer and closer to the brim, this is a critical moment in that all this. I just slipped my hand and the other one slipped out just like it did. My legs are taped, not tied. I checked the left jacket pocket for the pocket knife, quickly unseen. Cut the adhesive in pieces in peace. They barely noticed as I was leaving, hearing the final shock and awe. It seemed like it was a trap from God, when all I really needed was to find rest with even feeling people, but they had to reach on me, and I was told not to return revilings for revilings. Now the scene's a farmyard out the side of the barn, opposite side of the pasture I came up in, where the grinning shadow it crept up. When I thought I passed a distance, they wouldn't catch up, but as it was, so it will be. As in chapters 1 through 5, chapters later, still running from the same thing. In the center of the yard was a broken fountain, and across from that was a house long and short, but there was not time to pretend like this was a home. So I sprint from an open air situation to the tree line once again, to safety, but now in a forest like before. But they took my supplies. I take a glance back, and the words less poetic than it was. It's like the mystery of what's in the forest pulled at my back like a safety chain, slowly bringing me in. as I view a view like a ocean, absolutely in total calamity. The form I just described, I then became the last person to see it with eyes, because that's once where someone lived, and someone else will forget, because now it was just some land. So I turn from the violence against a landscape undeserving. So I turn away from things I can live without seeing into, maybe someday, to tell a story of a nice farm I had been that no one was in, and I walked for literally 2 days and nights. So hopefully when I rest, it'll be a better place. Chapter 5, Inevitable. So it seems to me I've been doing a lot of walking, honestly. Where am I even going? I've been awake lately. New hobby, pacing in place, is to keep safety from these things I can't begin to hide from if they even get a glimpse. A lot of times I remember hearing people's problems and I was like, ugh, yada yada yada, but to see the balance when it's all shown from the things that have been hidden of old, and the days turned colder and colder, but it was not winter. I can't remember how we even got to this place, such and such, but I sat where it ended up and we just had fun. Usually lately I've been impatiently or getting itchy to get a move on things, because it wasn't as it was anymore, sitting with your friends with eyes low from raised cheeks. But now I think I've been seeing things plainly, quite clearly. How could I hold fear when I can't get a grip on anything? The last bunch of yahoos, they took my bag, and boy, they didn't need it. But best believe I'd rather leave without eating than to miss out on any more seasons. How many more could we have at this rate? And as a matter of fact, since I don't know what season it is, because the days had been darkened and I stayed inside mainly and tended to lose myself a lot and forgot I had to get back up a few times, I must be musing. I could be walking quicker if I quieted my mind, or am I just tripping to feel alright? But where could I ever be? Where am I even going? The story's motion is motionless, mostly just floating in the fog or snow. Hush, hush, hailstones, we all know what falling feels like. And if you don't, you better get ready to cry, because it's appointed each man once to the death. So I kinda just been, how much life will I get? Is this where it is met? Can I get a grip? Fiction, once you quit, told him, let the truth in. I I don't know if the thoughts in my head hurt me, because I don't think they were listening. Quickly, I've been up all on myself to get moving, so if you don't remember, there was trees around me and I got goosebumps. Could have sworn I saw faces in the fog and shadows trying to hold the narrow path from me, but the light does shine in his glory and the hail pouring, so I looked up and beholding the brilliance of what was like a rainy day all the day, but it was still sunshiny and it was golden when it hit your eyes. As you say, the entire day was golden to me. It became about daily holding the golden day. As you say, my joy is in my own hands perpetually, but as I remember others' complaints and I'd yada yada brush them off as forgotten, now see that joy is more precious once you have felt forgotten. At least it felt like that for me. It felt like grief. I'm 5 chapters in from pain, but I'm already 5 chapters in. So what do I do? And what do I have left to get myself into? What else
Have I been ordained of old to stand for, to be? Who am I? Even to me, but mainly, who am I to you, God? Thoughts of the cross and the only begotten Son, and today I have begotten thee. He did not promise me no grief, but he did promise in his hand no one would pluck me. So chapters gone and chapters do go. Here we go. It either ends with a body or I just keep walking. Hey. And maybe if I just walk further into this empty scene, it's always been all heavy, easier time spotting the one red dress in the room full of white, and only I was left to color a blank canvas. But yet I had been formed before all that. If I'm going to walk off like this into blankness, I guess I didn't need my supplies either. Yeah. By now we're on chapter 4, and I wrote chapter 1 in like 2012, so by now it's been like 8 years or something like that, and I've just been adding on to it. Like the story, the idea, I don't really even know if it goes that well together, but it's interesting, and it's a good thing to like measure, I guess, my ability to do something. And so yeah, I hope you guys enjoy whatever this is, and I hope I can put it all together and it sounds pretty cool someday.